You have questions? We have answers. Welcome to the Therapist Question Box with your host, Miss Lindsay Schiss.
Welcome back to another episode of the Therapist Question Box, where we are not afraid to ask anything. So ask away. Today I have with me Brannon Patrick, who is a therapist and also a father. And we will be talking about the wide world of teenagers. So Brannon, I feel like you're an expert in this. Not only are you a dad, but you're also a therapist. So got your fair share of teenage stuff.
My daughter turned 16 like 5 days ago.
So okay.
Yes,
Happy birthday to her.
I have teenagers, yes.
Yes.
And one of them drives now, which is amazing. So.
And I was going to say, that's one of the brilliant parts of having a teenager, right? Changes your life. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Good. So today we're going to be discussing the wide world of teenagers. Really, growing up is tough, not just for teens, but also for parents. And really, we have a listener question that's talking about how we can tell if our teens' behavior is normal and just a normal part of growing up, or if it's something that we need to be concerned about. So Brannon, thanks for being here. Let's just dive right into the question.
Let's do it.
Okay. The question is, my 15-year-old daughter has stopped talking to me. Everybody says that's normal, but I'm really struggling with it. I think she might be depressed. She spends most of her time in her room. She'll sometimes come out for dinner, but never to watch TV with the family or play games or anything like that. And when we have a family activity, she usually refuses to attend. Maybe it would feel better if she was spending a lot of time with friends, but she's mostly alone online or on her computer in her room. I feel like she needs face-to-face connection to other humans, and I'm very worried about her. Is this normal, and should I just accept it, or is there something I can do? So give us your thoughts.
Yeah. So there's a lot of red flags for me going on with that question. So I'm really happy that she's asking the question. And she's not just thinking, oh, this is normal teenage behavior, and she'll just come out of this someday or whatever. One of the biggest red flags here in that question is the isolation going on. There's a reason for that, and that's not normal teenage behavior. So teenagers can isolate. They can, my son loves to like climb up in our loft and hide and read his books or whatever. But he also likes to do things. He likes to get out, do things. He likes to be adventurous, come talk to me, whatever. If they are just isolating, that's a sign of depression, or a sign of something else, a sign that maybe they have some secrets that they don't want people to know. They feel unlovable as they are, but it's a sign of something. So addressing that is important to try to understand what it's about and why it's happening.
Okay. So really the isolation, it sounds like, is the key here that feels concerning to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then what does a mom like this, what does our listener do? I mean, you can tell she's afraid. It sounds like this child is kind of closed off. So what would you suggest would be some things that she could do?
So some of the stuff, like she's not talking to me, that can be some normal teenage stuff, depending on how long it goes on. But I'm going to say something that might be a little bit hard to hear. Oftentimes, I know all of our kids are different, and they're complicated beings, and they respond differently with their emotions. Some shut down, some get aggressive, so all the things. And they're trying to figure out how to manage and cope with life and what works for them. And sometimes they find these maladaptive behaviors that feels like it works for them. And so they'll double down and they'll do more of it. And as parents, as we watch that happen, it's like, uh-oh, like I know this isn't going to work for you in your life. Mm-hmm. This isn't awesome. Isolating, not talking things out. But here's the thing that's hard to hear. A lot of times when a teenager goes to these maladaptive behaviors, it's because they don't feel like they can get healthy connection and attachment from a parent. So a
Mm,
lot of times it's the parent that needs to look at themselves and say, okay, what is it about me with this child that I am not a safe person? And how can I do my own work so that I can show up for them in a place of healthy boundaries, love, empathy, and connection, safety for them.
mm.
Um, so a lot of times when an adolescent comes into therapy, the parents bringing the adolescent in and saying, "Fix them here, like they're a problem. They've shut down." And as you dig in with that adolescent, which can be very hard to do sometimes, um, it comes out that whoa, there is some things breaking down in that relationship with the parent, and the parent needs to work on some things to actually help their adolescent through this time of learning and growth.
Oh gosh, as you say that, I think, man, I there are so many of us I think that can relate to that. And ironically, so much of the answers, right, are turn around and look in the mirror. Like look at
Yeah,
yourself instead of looking at the person, right? And
right.
what's the work we need to do? It actually makes me think of Inside Out too. Have you seen that show?
I just saw it. I loved it. I thought they did a great job.
I agree with you. And it makes me think of the part where the mom comes in and she's talking to the daughter, and you can see the daughter, she starts out,
Uh-huh.
everything's fine, and then she freaks out and she has, and all the mom's parts are kind of firing, the daughter's parts are firing. So really as a parent, how do you manage your own self when you're feeling attacked, ignored? There's a lot of things, right? As you said, the kid may not feel safe. They may not feel like they have a place of connection, of warmth, of unconditional love. But also as a parent, like we're definitely human too, right? We have these experiences and it feels rejecting often. How do we help manage our own responses and our own feelings around our teenagers?
When I say you need to do your own work, what that means is getting really conscious of yourself, desensitizing your triggers, and dealing with your trauma. And so, like I think of two of my children. Um, my oldest is she's kind of blunt, direct. You could even say aggressive.
Mm,
Um, my son is like soft and tender and sensitive, but shuts down and plays the victim.
mm,
Um, my daughter, I can handle no problem. In fact, I appreciate her bluntness and her directness, and it doesn't bother me. It's really kind of easy for me to navigate. Something about my son isolating and shutting down triggers me, and it's really hard for me to know how to navigate that with him. And then I just get like kind of blunt and direct with him, like knock it off,
mm,
don't do
mm,
that, don't. Which pushes him further into isolation and playing the victim. Um, so I can see that that's not effective for him. There are parts of me. So I like how you bring up parts work. I think if we can do our own parts work, there's protective parts, firefighter parts going on with my son of I want to fix it right now with him and make sure his victim stance triggers my firefighter parts. If I can unburden those parts and deal with those parts in the moment, then it's not about me anymore, and I can start to show up for him.
mm,
And show up for him isn't fixing all of his problems, but show up for him is being a source of strength in that moment for him, um, so that he feels safe to navigate what he's going through. Um, but it does take some introspection, and it takes some humility to be able to say, what is it about me that is causing this? Then it actually takes some work on yourself. So we're talking about parts work. EMDR is a great tool for parenting. I don't think we think about it that way,
mm,
but if I go do my own trauma work, I'm desensitizing triggers with my relationships, with attachment. And so if I've done my own trauma work and my son comes with something and it's desensitized, it's not as I
not
don't
as hot.
I'm not as reactionary to it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then I absolutely can show up stronger for him in those moments. Um, and so that's a good place to start, is to just look at yourself. How are you contributing to this? It's not your fault that she's isolating, that she's not, it might be your fault a little bit. She's not talking to you, but it's not about fault.
Hmm.
Um, right now it's about what do I need to shift in order to rebuild some trust and create some safety.
Yeah. That thought of what do I need to shift inside of me and how do I need to become more regulated? I will say in my own parenting, I have my oldest daughter is 19 and going through the teenage years was shocking to me. I thought, I'm the one that likes to be with the teenagers and I felt like I'm friends with them.
What is
And
there not to like about you,
right, I mean,
Lindsay?
right.
Like,
I mean, come
yeah,
on.
I mean, your teenagers were so lucky.
Well, that's what I thought until I had
Yeah,
my own teenagers, right? I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to kill this thing with teenagers. Like these are my people, right?
right,
So when I had my own teenager and she was like, get away from me. And, she may not have really said that, but that's really what it felt like to me. It felt
right,
super rejecting. And
right.
so I had my own pain around feeling rejected. And it's interesting because I can look at it from a therapist perspective and say, well, she's just doing
That's
her job of
part of
individuating.
development.
Right.
It's part of
But as a
development.
mom, it's super painful. I mean, it felt like I went from being the best thing ever to she can't stand the way I chew. I don't know if that's
Right,
really what it
right.
was, but it's what it
Yeah,
felt like.
right.
So it is rejecting in some ways. And I think it's really important that we recognize that parents aren't just robots, that this is a hard phase for parents to experience.
But also, Lindsay, that rejection will be exacerbated by your trauma, right? By your own shame and your own trauma. So if she's like, "Ew, look how you're chewing," um, depending on what you've experienced in your life, that's going to really hurt, or it's going to be like, "All right, she's a teenager who can't stand how I chew. Like she'll grow out of this."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and if it really, really is affecting you, then I think that's a good opportunity for you to look at that and say, okay, like where is this coming from for me? Why is this so? Your teenager is a great teacher to you,
Oh, it's so true.
right? And so then what do I need to look at here to deal with in my own life so that I don't get so triggered by them? I'm not saying they're not annoying. I'm not saying it's not frustrating. Teenagers in many ways suck, but they're awesome.
Yes, I agree with that. Both.
It's okay to be
Yes.
annoyed. It's okay to be frustrated. We don't have to do like deep psychotherapy on yourself with things like that. But if you're seeing patterns over and over again and you're not getting anywhere with them, then it is time for you to look at this and say, okay, what is it about me? Because that's what's under my control.
Okay, but isn't it sometimes also not personal? Like, can I look at it and say, yes, there are things in my control, but there are also just things developmentally. I will say, when I've talked to friends about this, it's been so helpful just to have them normalize. Like, oh, yeah, that totally has happened to me. It makes sense. That's what my daughter did the same thing. I promise they come back and they don't hate everything you do. So, I agree with what you're saying. Like we've got to look inside, but also just kind of normalizing that parenting teenagers is hard and that it can feel rejecting at times too.
Well, I think we need to be very careful with what we're talking about here. Like, what is the expectation? The
Mm,
expectation isn't I go deal with all my own stuff and then me and my teenager have a perfect relationship.
yes.
They're still dealing with stuff. They're still pushing boundaries. They're still shutting down, and there's still sadness on your part and frustration and all those things. But it's about how you navigate it that matters. It's yeah, expect some tumultuous stuff to happen while they're in those years. That's okay. That's part of the process. Um, so yeah, it's not it's normal to be in this process.
Mhm.
I think that's important to say.
And I like what you said there is that it's not just when we do our own work, when we look at our own shame and our pain and our triggers, that all of a sudden they're just going to snap out and be fantastic and
Yeah,
wonderful humans. They're still teenagers. That's still
yeah.
going to be happening,
You
right?
don't sit around and sing kumbaya. Like
Yeah.
you got to take away the video games once in a while.
It's still happening, right? So, but
Yeah.
we're able to maybe regulate ourselves a little better, right?
Right.
So, from our listener's question, I want to go back to what she said because you said, I'd be concerned about this because of the isolation and really distancing herself from, it sounds like a lot of connection. What would you say is normal teenage? Like, what's normal? What could you say? Okay, this one feels concerning because of the things our listener said that are concerning. But what would you say is just normal differentiation and really separating and doing the job of teenagehood that might feel still concerning to parents?
Yeah, normal differentiation are things like, um, friends become more important than family. Friends are prioritized. I need to hang out. I need a friend group. I want to connect to my friends, and parents and family are there more for like convenience to make sure that I can do those things. Um, so it's normal to feel used some. Um, um, Also, volatile emotions is normal. Hormones are changing and shifting, and so sometimes emotions don't make much sense, and that's normal. So, to be able to roll with that and help your teenager regulate their emotions and notice them, and that's all good stuff. But expect the tumultuousness of the emotions to happen. Um,
Okay.
it's normal for them to not um, be very good at coping or managing emotions. So,
Mm,
uh, the just like all human beings, they'll they'll want to shut down, they'll want to numb out, um, and be unhealthy in those ways. We all go for the quick fix dopamine, rather than like most teenagers don't go journal out their feelings and their
right.
emotions. um,
Wouldn't that be nice?
Although my
By the way,
daughter,
a lot of us don't either, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
My daughter, she can go nuclear at times. Just
Mm, get
um,
big.
but it's awesome because she did a class on emotions, and the other day she got really mad, and I could see it coming, and it was gonna explode, and she's like, I gotta go play the piano right now.
Mm,
And I was like, yes, that's awesome, go bust it out on the piano, like move some energy. And so to praise her for that, of good job regulating, good job identifying your emotions. And she was screaming at me, I gotta
yeah.
go play the piano right now. um, but that's normal for her to
Yeah.
be emotional.
Right.
So
And
in
and
yeah.
what I'm hearing is you didn't shame her. It wasn't like, "Oh my gosh, get yourself in check, figure it out, girl. Like look at you. You're losing your crap." It's like, "Actually, congratulations. You noticed it and you're doing something about it." So, I think when
Yeah.
you're saying that, I think, okay, we don't shame them either for having big emotions because that's part of the deal.
Oh, that's one of the, I think, really important for parents to understand. You actually do the opposite. Wow, look how you're responding. Do you notice what you're thinking? And you don't want to, sound like you're like patronizing them, but like, wow, like you're feeling pretty mad right now. I can see why you'd feel mad about that. That makes
Mhm.
sense. What do you want to do with that? You hand that back over to them, and let them figure it out, but you let them know it's absolutely okay to feel whatever you're feeling.
I love that it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling. That
Mhm.
that that sad